One of the best parts about Sonic Speed Simulator is the fact that it gets consistent weekly updates. Today, I'm going to be talking about why the midweek updates have never actually worked for the game. I hope you guys enjoy, and with that, let's head straight into it. Now, first of all, let me explain what I mean when I say midweek update. Most of you will jump to the more recent updates like the Android Shadow midweek event, the Summer Wave midweek event, and others like the Drummer Cream and Sailor Sonic events. But what if I told you there used to be other midweek events? Yeah, that's right, because if we dig into the early and OG days of Sonic Speed Simulator, you'll know that we had completely different midweek updates. They would be really small and mini updates. Sometimes it would be a little bit of a boost, like a 3x XP boost or a 3x rings boost. Other times they would be brand new daily challenges to keep people going. But the point is, we did have midweek updates. Although at some point they stopped and they only returned very recently with these other midweek events. Now a lot of people are wondering why these midweek updates are really staggering. Sometimes they'll happen, sometimes they won't. Well, that's literally what today's video is answering. Now, to start off, I think the first and one of the biggest reasons these midweek updates barely happen is just the player community. A majority of the game's player base is younger children, and having updates midweek isn't exactly great because lots of people will be at school, doing homework, studying, and lots of children have to go to bed. Not to mention there's a good chunk of people that aren't allowed to play the game in the week anyways. So it doesn't make sense for the devs to put hard work in and all that effort in just for the updates to go unnoticed and forgotten. Like, dude, just look at this graph of the amount of players. As you can see, it usually spikes around the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday sort of time because that's when we get the updates, that's the weekends. But let's take a look at the middle of the week areas like September 10th. This is a midweek update and the player count is literally at the bare minimum. Whenever it's the middle of the week, no matter what the devs do, the player count can barely be risen up. Like, as you guys can see right here, it's a huge dip, again a huge dip, another dip, another dip. The middle of the week is always barren. Now, that's not GameFam's fault. Literally every single game experiences that. The middle of the week is a hectic time for communities and for all the players, so you're always gonna see a big dip. However, the entire point of midweek updates is to get players back to the game, to keep people engaged and going with content. But then when you look at the two, you'll realize that the midweek updates aren't doing what they're trying to do. And I think what happened was when the devs first introduced midweek updates, there was some sort of thought that it would help bring the player counts up in the middle of the week, but when they realized that it wouldn't really work, they decided to let go of it. Like, to be honest, if I was making a game, I would kind of do the same. Now, I think more recently, the devs decided to kickstart the midweek updates again because they felt that the game needed a bit more content and a bit more liveliness with more skins and events. And honestly, I think the midweek updates did help the game a lot because it did give us a lot of content during that summer period where all schools were on break and people were vibing. But then there was that little period where summer had ended but the midweek updates were still going, and I think it's really obvious the player base sort of just stopped caring about midweek updates as much at that point. And honestly, I think it's a great thing that the devs haven't made these midweek updates every week because first of all, it'll just burn them out, always making new skins, models, and designs. Plus, it is kind of hurtful if nobody is playing these updates. Putting them out isn't gonna do anything. Like, look, this is back in 2022. We had this weekend update, and then we had a little midweek update. It added enchantments, it did a few quality of life updates, and it added the golden Sonic statue. Then our weekend update, then another midweek update, just a few codes and stuff, a weekend update, a midweek update that had some spin wheel improvements, UGC, a character sale, and the pattern continues on a weekend, then a midweek update. The midweek updates would usually be small sales or very minor little updates. As you can see, this time we had a hilltop race course. We could use mounts in races. Sometimes midweek updates were really big and sometimes they were super small. They were consistent though, like we constantly had these midweek updates. And look, they really did give give people some fun times. But again, I don't think everybody was actually playing them. I think after the game was reborn, the midweek updates just stopped, and we'd get one every so often. Like you can see here, we have a ton of weekend updates and then one midweek update. Again, they were really slow and they were pretty unstable. Sometimes we would get them and sometimes we wouldn't. And eventually they kind of just zoned out. We're barely ever getting these midweek updates at this point. And at this point, they kind of feel like special occasions as opposed to like an update that's consistent. Now, fast forward all the way to around 3 months ago, and we had our midweek update with Summer Wave. Like I said, this was around the holiday period, so we had a weekend update, then a midweek update, bringing us these small characters, and eventually, these midweek updates started to get pretty big. We'd get new skins. They did take a bit of a break for the Lego period, but then as you can see, we had another one, and we kept going, we have another midweek update, and then again, they start to kind of fizzle out. We're not seeing them as much. They're like really, really weird to see. We'll see them once every so often, and just like that, midweek updates are gone again. Now, just a clear note, the point of this video isn't to hate on midweek updates or say the devs aren't doing enough. Personally, I think it's completely reasonable that the devs aren't doing all these midweek updates 24/7 because I feel like it's just a lot of work and strain on them when not many people are playing them. The whole point of the video was just supposed to explain what happened to midweek updates and why the devs aren't doing them all the time. Although remember, this is just my thoughts. There might be some other reasons, like maybe GameFam doesn't want these midweek updates all the time, but that's just my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's free, easy, and it'll help me out a ton on my journey to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!